What does Rachel Reeves actually plan to do? We may not know, but as far as Reeves is concerned, any problems with the economy has nothing to do with her. It was someone else's fault. In this video, she seeks to justify her actions so far and avoids taking any responsibility for the state of the economy. We also uncover timeless leadership principles of responsibility and decision making. Before we get into the details, if you love diving into political issues and enjoy hearing a principled take on them, then hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to join the conversation. It will help our channel reach a wider audience.
Later this month, I will deliver my second budget as Chancellor of the Exchequer. At that budget, I will make the choices necessary to deliver strong foundations for our economy. My budget, led by this government's values of fairness and opportunity, and focused entirely on the priorities of the British people: protecting our NHS, reducing our national debt, and improving the cost of living. There is a lot of speculation about the choices that I will make. I understand that. These are important choices that will shape the future of our country for years to come. I want people to understand the circumstances we are facing, the principles guiding my choices, and why I believe they will be the right choices for our country. But years of economic mismanagement has limited our country's potential, with long-term issues continually unchecked and potential unrealised. At the budget last year, I fixed the foundations, dealing with the aftermath of Liz Truss's disastrous mini-budget and the £22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the previous government. I put our public finances back on a firm footing, provided an urgent cash injection into our faltering public services, and began rebuilding our economy. But since that budget, the world has thrown even more challenges our way. The continual threat of tariffs has dragged on global confidence, deterring business investment and dampening growth. Inflation has been too slow to come down, as supply chains continue to be volatile, meaning the costs of everyday essentials remain too high. And the cost of government borrowing has increased around the world, a shift that Britain, with our high levels of debt left by the previous government, has been particularly exposed to. And in an uncertain world, we also face pressure to increase our defence spending, and it is right that we do that, protecting ourselves from hostile actors and supporting our allies. And there are other pressures on the public finances. The Prime Minister, the Secretary of Work and Pensions, and this whole government are committed to reforming our welfare state, so that it is not a system that counts the costs of failure, but one that invests in success and protects those who need it most. There is nothing progressive about refusing to reform a system that is leaving 1 in 8 young people out of education or employment. So we have begun the job of creating a system that protects people who cannot work and empowers those who can. And there are longer-term challenges too. That feeling, shared by millions of people across the country, that the economy isn't working as it should. Alongside the budget this month, the Office of Budget Responsibility, the UK's public finance watchdog, will set out the conclusions of their review of the supply side of the UK economy. I will not preempt those conclusions, but it is already clear that the productivity performance that we inherited from the last government is weaker than previously thought. Our country was underprepared, our public services weakened, and our economy fragile. And we finished the pandemic with higher death rates and higher debt than our peers. This isn't about relitigating old choices. It's about being honest with the people about the consequences that those choices have had. It is my job to deal with the world as we find it, not the world that I might wish it to be. not to commentate or to speculate, but to act. In my Mays lecture last year, I set out our plan for solving our productivity problem through a programme of stability, investment and reform. And when I became Chancellor, I began to put that plan into action, stabilising our public finances, making the tax and spending decisions to get debt down and to fund our public services sustainably, changing the fiscal rules to increase public investment by £120 billion over the course of this Parliament, and crowding in private investment too, for road and for rail, for housing and nuclear power, and reforming our economy, ripping up the planning rules so we can build housing and infrastructure right across the country, bringing the brightest and the best to our shores with a new visa regime, and signing trade deals with the EU, the US and India to help businesses export around the world. We've begun to see the results of those plans in falling interest rates and falling NHS waiting lists, in rising wages and rising investment. But I know that real progress takes time. Our growth was the fastest in the G7 in the first half of this year. I don't expect anyone to be satisfied with growth of 1%. I'm not, and I know that there is more to do. The first part of our planning reforms will add an additional £6.8 billion to the size of our economy in the next 5 years. But the next part, our planning bill, must complete its passage through Parliament before it can make a difference. Interest rates, which rose from 0.1% to 5.25% in the last Parliament, have now been cut 5 times. But at 4%, they are still a constraint on business borrowing and a burden on family finances. Inflation is already much lower than the double digits seen under the previous government. And the choices I make in this budget this month will be focused on getting inflation falling and creating the conditions for interest rate cuts to support economic growth and improve the cost of living. Priorities and the values that will guide those choices. Mine will be a budget for growth, with fairness at its heart, and a budget that supports businesses to create jobs and to innovate. As I take my decisions on both tax and spend, I will do what is necessary to protect families from high inflation and interest rates, to protect our public services from a return to austerity, and to ensure that the economy that we hand down to future generations is secure, with debt under control. If we are to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit for the security of our country and the brightness of its future. There is a reward for getting these decisions right. To build more resilient public finances with the headroom to withstand global turbulence. Giving business the confidence to invest and leaving government freer to act when the situation calls for it. To continue to invest in our infrastructure and our industry to build a stronger economy. And to get the cost of borrowing down, spending less on debt interest and more on schools and on our health service. The Office of Budget Responsibility will make their forecasts at the end of this month. But let's be clear about what forecasts are. They're not visions of the future. They're a look in the rearview mirror. The OBR rightly make their predictions based on the data that has gone before. But I do not believe that our past has to determine our future, or that a stuttering economy, poor productivity and falling living standards is somehow Britain's destiny. A brighter future is within our grasp. We were elected to break with the cycle of decline, and this government is determined to see that through. So we will go further and faster on planning, on the industrial strategy, on reforming regulation, all to deliver growth throughout our economy in all parts of our country. We will bear down on waiting lists, on the cost of living, and on the national debt, which compound these challenges. And when that requires hard choices, we will act, guided by the interests of working people. We were elected on a commitment to put country before party, the national interest before political calculation. And whatever challenges come our way, whatever challenges come my way, we will not be swayed from that. At the budget this year, I will continue to build the strong foundations to secure Britain's future. For a fairer Britain, a more prosperous Britain, a Britain with an economy that works for everyone.
As terrible as the Tories were in office for 14 years, just this first year alone of the Labour government has been even worse for Britain. It feels like what the Tories did in 14 years, Labour has managed to do worse in less than 1 year. Rachel Reeves' main points at her pre-budget press conference were to blame everything and everyone else but herself for the disaster that she and the Labour government have inflicted on Britain. Everything that Rachel and Labour did was partisan. Nothing that they did was focused on the entire nation. The British people keep crying and begging, please close the open borders. Still, no effort has been made to close those borders. What is more important for Reeves and Labour is to open more four-star hotels and spend billions on keeping illegal migrants there. What possibly could be the reason? Could it be that Labour has been importing new votes? These illegal migrants also have had preferential treatment of getting to use the NHS for dental or any other sicknesses over British citizens. While Labour said that our gas and electric costs would have been reduced to £300 per year, the gas and electric costs have skyrocketed. What is the reason for that? Labour and Ed Miliband's net zero targets. Wind and solar. The wind doesn't blow consistently, and they keep covering the sky every day with chemicals, so there's no sun either. Britain has its own oil and gas, yet we keep buying from others overseas. Britain also buys Chinese energy, which is wind and solar panels. These kind of electric mechanisms work intermittently. They are government-funded subsidies. And so instead of making money, they are costing the British taxpayer. You cannot make up this vicious, ill-thought-out cycle of consequences. These energy costs have a negative impact on businesses and households. Increasing the corporation tax has also caused so many businesses to shut down and many wealthy people to run away to other countries with their businesses, where they think they would make better profit. The national insurance tax hike on businesses has caused businesses not to be able to employ or recruit enough staff to do the job. This national insurance tax has caused people to be overworked and underpaid, even though the minimum wage has been increased. Food prices have skyrocketed. Rent, childcare, travel, etc. All of these increases are because of the overtaxation of Britain and bad policy decisions from Reeves and Labour. Would you say any of this is Rachel Reeves' fault? Maybe, but she won't. As a government, your responsibility is to make policies so that the country can be productive. Lower taxes increase the likelihood of businesses investing and more people being employed. Once you have more businesses investing and more people employed, that means you have more money coming in the coffers, which shows an increase in productivity. Stop blaming others for your shortcomings or your bad decisions. Be responsible for your actions and inactions. As a leader, it is difficult to make any positive, significant changes if you are a big part of the problem and you are unable to see that. When you realize that you have done wrong, you are able to turn the page. Do something new to make the British people better off and the nation stronger. Leadership demands responsibility for decision making. It is not simply about getting into power, but how you manage the responsibilities that come with that power. You cannot choose a power but refuse to make the tough decisions that benefit the people who have entrusted you with the power. When you make decisions, there will be consequences, positive or negative, and you must own and acknowledge your part in the outcomes. Not blame everyone else for what fails, only to be prepared to accept responsibility for what worked. True leaders Step up now. Own every decision you have made. Face the fallout head-on and commit to choices that rebuild Britain's strength for all its people. Britain deserves nothing less. If you have benefited in any way from this video, please subscribe, like, share, and be sure to leave us a comment.